one of the, hang on, we'll bring you guys back up to speed. We were talking about improvements in roads. They started off just being dirt and that wears down too much with industries carrying heavy loads. Okay, so they tried plank roads, wooden planks, but they're kind of elevated. And what happens if a wagon wheel goes off that and it has tons of flock? Or in a wintry condition off the ice, it slides. Well, you might have to unload the whole wagon, then get the wagon back up on the road, then reload the whole wagon. It's not particularly practical. Plus, wood expands and contracts quite a bit. And in any place where there's going to be winter or a lot of rain, that road is going to rot out and bust up pretty quickly. So that's not a good solution. They came along then. Oh yeah, incidentally, anybody know anything about a plank road? Ever heard of a plank road? You've never heard of a plank road? Raise your hand if you live in Elm Grove. Nobody from Elm Grove. What's the main street in Elm Grove? Watertown Plank Road. That was a plank road, a wooden road from Milwaukee to Watertown. All right, cool. Along comes a man named McAdams, and he created a road which is pretty much what we have today. And that is, the first thing they do is they flatten out the road where they want it to be. Actually, roads aren't exactly flat. There's a little bit of curve up at the top because you don't want the water just to sit there. You'd like it to drain off so the road is fairly dry. So they created this flat area to begin with. Then they put stones down there. They put crushed stones down there. Then on top of that, they put asphalt, what we have now. They did this. Why would they put the stones there? Why did they just put the asphalt down?
Maybe to keep it more still or more structured.
More structured? Omar. Okay. Got it.
So the bottom of it doesn't wash out.
So the bottom of it doesn't wash out. Okay. Come on. Okay. All good thinking answers. The answer is, why do roads break up? Corrode? Not quite. Then what happens when the water gets in? Right? If there's a crack in the road or underneath the road, there's a spot and water gets in there and then it freezes. Water expands when it freezes. That's why Wisconsin has such trouble with their roads. Because winter comes and snow melts and it falls and it melts and it falls and all the water seeps into every little crack. And every time it refreezes, it gets bigger and opens up the crack more. And the next time more water gets down there, bigger cracks. So that's a big problem. Well, if you just put asphalt onto dirt, what would happen would be you'd have a lot of stuff underneath. If there was a crack, there's no place for the water to go. But if you put stones in next to each other, not just little pebbles, but stones in next to each other, then there's space in between them. They don't sit flush. So the space in between them, that's a place for the water to go. If there's a hole in the road and the water can fall through and go in between those stones when it expands and then contracts when it melts and absorbs into the ground. So this is a kind of a road which was successful. Like I say, it's still pretty much what we use today, the McAdams Road. Have you guys ever seen that thing? Why railroad tracks are the width they are?
What?
Why railroad tracks are the width they are?
It's a train.
Okay. Well, why are they built to that width? It goes all the way. It's an interesting thing. You can look up on Google or whatever, but it goes back to, well, that's the width that wagons with. Well, why were wagons that width? Well, that's the width that, something else was. It goes all the way back until it's the size of the wheel of a Roman war chariot. So that's just kept up. They just kept building with the same gauge. All right, cool. We got mountain transportation. Let's talk about the Trail of Tears.
Oh, that sounds fun. Sounds very happy.
Okay. The Trail of Tears is an event. Now, I'm a very patriotic person. I think America, the United States, is just the greatest country that's ever been. I mean, we are an amazing country. This is the biggest economy in the world. Well, China. China's not closed anymore. It was for a little bit. What about, what about wealth? Well, we've got more billionaires than everything. Anybody else? What about military power? We've got it. Okay, what else though? We've got certain freedoms and rights that other people don't have. This is an incredible country. But in the history of this incredible country, there have been bad things done. And one of these things was the story of the Trail of Tears. Everybody look up here. Remember, this is the land of the Cherokee. And the Cherokee said, hey, we like to live like the Americans. We like the barns. We like wearing pants. We like having silos and that kind of agriculture. We like living like the Americans. And the Cherokee, being an Indian tribe, had a treaty which said, this is your land up here in northern Georgia, southern Tennessee. People were moving west, settlers coming west, and they bumped into the Cherokee. Andrew Jackson was the president at the time. And they said, hey, Andrew Jackson, we would really like this land. And so Andrew Jackson said, all right, I'll move the Cherokee for you. Now, the Cherokee had said, we want to live in the American way. This is how we want to do it. And so, what the Cherokee did was, they didn't go to war. They got lawyers. And the lawyers, because it's a fight between two nations, the Cherokee Nation and the United States Nation, they went right to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, the American government said, look, the red man and the white man, again, we got to go to the crayon box, which is the worst way possible to describe human beings. But the natives, and I got to go with the colors. That's what they were talking about. The red man and the white man can't live together. Native Americans and settlers can't live together. If you put them near each other, then there's going to be war. So we're moving west here. The best thing we can do is move the Cherokee. Everybody look over here. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Oklahoma. Okay. Raise your hand if you have ever seen a rock. Then you have seen Oklahoma. Okay. Oklahoma, not a very lovely area. Matter of fact, my youngest son was in artillery when he was in the Army, and the artillery school is down here at Fort Sill. And he told me that the reason they put it there is because it doesn't matter what you shoot in Oklahoma, it's not worth anything. Okay, not a big Oklahoma. Anyway, they said, the United States government said, let's take the Cherokee and put them over here in this lovely area. We'll give that to them because it's going to take us decades to get over there. And besides, this is a really garbage piece of ground, so we'll give that to them. That was the argument the United States made. The Cherokee said, excuse me, we already have a treaty signed by the United States government, which we negotiated, which said we get this land, the land we now occupy, northern Georgia, southern Tennessee, we get this in perpetuity, perpetually, forever. And the United States government already signed that. And the Supreme Court looked at the facts and said, the Cherokee win. They're right. This is their land. Sorry, Andrew Jackson, you lose. And Andrew Jackson said, oh, woo, beautiful, beautiful. That was amazing. That was fantastic. That was wonderful. You guys thought that out. Oh, you wrote out a great response. You looked at the evidence and you came up with your decision. And I only see one little problem with your decision. You don't have an army, but I do. I'm going to move the Cherokee. So Andrew Jackson ordered the Cherokee moved. Clearly unconstitutional. Clearly against what the law said was supposed to happen. What should have happened? He probably should have been impeached and removed from office. But remember, this is Andrew Jackson, the hero of the Battle of New Orleans. This is the guy that saved the United States in many people's minds. They're not going to have enough votes to impeach him. So Andrew Jackson moves the Cherokee. he sends this man, and this is a very important person. This is General Winfield Scott. And Winfield Scott is the most important American general between the War of 1812 and the American Civil War. So for the first half of the 1800s, he's the guy. He's an incredibly important general. This is the first time we meet him doing something huge. And he has his orders. His orders are to go there and move the Cherokee as quickly as possible, which is exactly what he does. He goes to the land of the Cherokee and says, get ready, we're moving out in just a matter of a couple of weeks. Now the Cherokee, trying to reason, say, can we have time to sell our farms and our homes? No, I'm ordered to move you. Can we have time to at least wait until our crops are in so that we can get prepared for this journey? No, I'm ordered to move you as soon as possible. Incidentally, this used to be something that was considered just the right excuse. I was ordered to do it. The president or the camp commander, the general, the colonel, whatever, gave me an order, I said to do it. That's no longer considered acceptable if the action is not legal, not right. There was, in Vietnam, some American soldiers killed a bunch of villagers at a place called My Lai. And the defense of the commander that was on the ground there was, I was ordered to do it. And they said, you can't kill people that aren't fighting you because somebody tells you to go shoot those people. So he went to prison. Okay. But this guy, he's ordered. That was the mentality back then. He's ordered I have to move the Cherokee. What he did was get them without giving them proper time to prepare. Everybody look up here. He moved the Cherokee from their homeland, and he didn't want to bring them straight across here. There's too many populated places. So what he did was he drove them north and then across. And he drove them north into a terrible winter storm. They were not prepared for this journey. They were not in any way, shape, or form able to handle it. 1 out of 4 of the Cherokee died along the trail. It is the Cherokee themselves who have named this the Trail of Tears. If today you go to a Cherokee reservation and you want to buy something at a gift shop or whatever, they will not accept this bill. Why won't they accept this bill? Because it has Andrew Jackson's picture on it. They'll take a 10, they'll take a 5, they'll take a 1, they'll take a 50 or a 100, but they won't take a 20. Okay. Let's see here. Now, Andrew Jackson has moved the Cherokee out over there. He's pushing them into what was called, notice this red area, it's not exactly just what's current day Oklahoma. It's a little bigger, it's a little different than that. It was called the Indian Nation, or the Nation. And the Indian Removal Act of 1830 says that all Indians east of the Mississippi River had to be moved west of the Mississippi River. All of them. All Indians east of the Mississippi River had to be moved west of the Mississippi River. This is another one of those wonderful things. People with little knowledge sometimes are asked to make decisions. So the people who were setting up the Indian Nation said, boy, let's see, who will we stick together? Well, you know, the Creeks used to be down near the Cherokees. I bet they're buddies. So let's put them near each other. Matter of fact, the Seminoles down here, let's put them next to the Creeks and the Cherokees. But the Seminoles were supposed to live with the White Stick Creeks. And remember, some of the Seminoles were Red Stick Creeks. They fought wars against each other. They hated each other. They killed each other. And now the government says, well, let's put them together. the Second Seminole War. They said, we're not moving there. We have to live next to the White Stick Creek. We have no interest in going over there because we hate those guys. And who was the war chief of the Seminoles? Yeah.
Osceola.
Osceola, right. Osceola now. And things have changed. It's so interesting the way people learn lessons and then sometimes they forget lessons. During the American Revolution, the American Army had said, wow, you know, the British come over here and they stand in lines and they wear uniforms and they beat drums and they blow bugles and we're going to hide behind rocks and trees and things and shoot them. Well, now we've moved along far enough that the Army came in and they fought like an army. They beat drums and blew bugles and marched around in uniforms. Through the swaps, you know, it's pretty easy to tell somebody's coming if they're not being particularly quiet about it. The Indians, on the other hand, fought like Indians. They hid behind rocks and trees and things and shot soldiers. The war became unpopular. The United States, well, American people don't mind putting their resources into something that they think is just and reasonable. World War II, they said, geez, you know, the Nazis are putting living people into ovens. The Nazis are just decimating people. The Japanese are just raping cities. They're horrendous. We need to stop these people. And America got behind the war effort and said, okay, whatever it takes, and it took 4 long years. But this went Energizer Bunny. This just kept going and going and going. It cost $20 million, which was an astronomical sum of money back then, and over 1,500 lives. Now, if there's going to be a big battle and 1,500 lives are lost, or a couple of hundred, that's one thing, but just a few here and a couple there, constantly, every day, here's a soldier gone, here's another couple of soldiers gone. America just grew tired of it. What did we do when the World Trade Center was attacked? We said, all right, we're really angry and we're really powerful. What are we going to do? So America doesn't mind flexing the muscle. We went over and said, okay, we think it might have come out of Iraq. So we toppled the government of Iraq, got rid of Saddam Hussein, which was probably a really good thing. Then we said, you know, how about Afghanistan? Let's go over, we toppled the government of Afghanistan, which may have been a good thing, I'm not sure. But the long and the short of it is, we went over and knocked a few heads, but then it kept going and going, this war on terrorism, and Americans kind of get bored with it. Like, oh, geez, is this still going on? Can't we go on to phase 2? Can't we go do something else? I remember when that happened, and President Bush said, you know, no matter how long it takes, we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna beat world terrorism. We're still fighting world terrorism. I remember, let's see, what was the thing that happened with President Obama? But it was, again, one of those things that, oh, we're gonna, no matter how long it takes, we'll never forget this. And I can't even remember what it is right now. So Americans just kind of go past these things. Incidentally, how long something takes is funny. Our attention span seems to be growing less and less and less. During the first Gulf War, I was watching TV at the end of it with my mother. Now, my mother was an old lady. She'd lived through World War II. And this young gal comes on, this news reporter, and she said, it's finally over. And my mother said, what? It was 4 days long. The war was 4 days long, and this woman was going, it's finally over. Like, this had just been, oh, how did we ever live through this? It was 4 days long. My mother said, World War II was 4 years. Everybody was gone. People were, you know, getting messages saying, geez, he lost an arm, he lost a leg, he lost an eye, he lost his life, by the hundreds, by the thousands. And this is 4 days long, and people go, oh. Anyway, it didn't work out very well because it became unpopular. Also, what happened was, well, let me start with this first. Osceola was captured under a flag of truce. He came in under a white flag. Now that's an international sign that we want to talk. And when you accept somebody coming in under a flag of truce, that means you will give them safe passage back. So I told you, sometimes the American government in dealing with the Indian nations, these are not our most shining moments. Well, Osceola came in under a flag of truce and they captured it. Now think about that as far as ending the war. If you don't observe a flag of truce, how are you ever going to end the war? Why would the other side talk to you again? Because you might just capture them if they go over to talk to you. So this was a really poor choice. Incidentally, the bricks of the sidewalk, there's Osceola that I was standing on. In the end, Second Seminole War, most of the Indians said, all right, that's it. We can't raise our families. You keep burning our villages. You keep hunting us down. This is not good. It's not good for our people. Most of them said, fine, we'll move west. We'll move to the Indian nation. Then eventually the army said, yeah, we didn't move them all, but we're done. That's enough. Kind of lost interest. So the Second Seminole War, really, nobody won. Because each side got some of what it wanted, and some of the Seminoles stayed, and some of the Seminoles left, and the Army moved some of them, and the Army didn't move some of them. So in the end, nobody won. This is snow, yeah, we're back to snow. Yes, we got it.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, tiny people, have a good weekend. Not you guys, those guys.